make a pitcher. So this is 3.5 pounds of clay. So this is the wheel I use most of the time. It's a rando wheel with the motor. It's a little bit noisy, but that's the way it is. So what you want to do in the beginning is have this piece of clay well wedged. Sometimes I wedge better than other times, I'll say that. But I usually cone up, which is additional wedging on the wheel, and is putting the clay in alignment. So when you're coning up, you want to make sure your hands are going like this, so it keeps it and the palms of your hands are on it. If you go too much like this, you end up with a hole in the middle. So after you get this up, in order to get it back down, you pull it off center and it goes back into center. So centering is for me, is the palm here and the right hand down. And whenever both hands can touch, you're more secure and it's stronger. So I'm going down. Putting that in center. I'll be opening up with the left hand, with the right hand on top helping. So I'm going down in the center. Keep it well lubricated at this point. And then with the left hand and the right hand helping, I'm pulling towards me and opening up the bottom. So you want to pull as straight across as you can. So pulling across, the right hand slides around. I'm squeezing in this knuckle, this finger, and the fingers on my left hand. So everything works together. It's not separate. So then I'm using the pads of the right hand. So I pull that middle finger up so they're even. The thumb and the back is to brace it. Often hold a sponge just like a cushion. I've been making pots for a long time, so you want to kind of protect your hands also. So enough water to lubricate it, but don't drown it. So I'm squeezing in and slowly coming up. You want to keep the same amount of pressure. When it gets thinner, you want to squeeze in more at the bottom As it gets thinner up here, you release the pressure just a little bit so you don't tear it off. So I'm going to keep this cleaned up here at the bottom, because if you don't, this becomes a little roll that sort of falls off because this is wet down here. So I'm going to go back in, squeeze in. I'm not going very fast. And my hands are not going up fast. So that's essentially gotten quite a bit of the clay up. I'm going to go inside and push out from the inside to the outside. I'm going to do that again. So you can use your fingers, but you can also use a rib to strengthen it, so it puts some pressure on there. So you can use any kind of rib you want. You can use something like this. You can use this way as a rib. You can use a metal rib. They're not specific rules. You have to do what works for you. So this is going to be a picture, but it's going to be a fat-bellied picture, not straight. So I'm going to start bellying this out. And so what is happening here is the hand on the inside is going to stretch out for shaping. And I often go down. I'm going inside. just gonna keep stretching this out till I get the shape I want. Also have a nice little air bubble in the top. So, thing is, it's right there. The thing is about clay, it's just, I mean, I think I love clay also because every little thing you do to it makes a difference in what's going to happen at the end. I mean, like working on a lathe in the wood studio is great, but you can't pick up all those pieces on the floor and put them back. And in clay, you can do that. A little bit of water in the bottom. I just want to get the neck of the picture the way I want it. So then for me, there's always excess at the bottom, so I get a little bit of the excess off now, but it'll go back on the wheel to be trimmed after it gets dry enough. So, just going down. Cutting that excess off. So, okay, so now this picture needs a lip. So for me, when I put the lip on, hold these fingers here I'm going down in and swinging out. So I'm coming down in and swinging out to make the lip. Okay. And then this is the throat here. So in order to emphasize that and have the liquid go in the right direction, I'm coming up here and here to emphasize the throat. So my rule of thumb is that this here, part of the lip, has to be horizontal in order for it to pour. So then I'm changing the shape of this a little bit. Now I'm going to cut it off and dry your hands off, place them at the bottom, and slowly just twist a little and pick it up. And then after this dries some, it's ready for trimming. Okay, so this picture is dried enough to trim, and I always trim pictures right side up because it's really difficult to do them upside down. Besides that, a picture does not need a foot on the bottom. So just tap this bottom up a little bit, put a little moisture on the wheel, wiggle this around until you feel it starting to stick. I might have put a little too much water. Starting to stick. And then center it. So you center it on the wheel, and then what I'm doing is taking my wooden rib, and at the bottom here, take a little of this excess clay and seal it to the wheel head. Now, it can sometimes fly off even doing this. So when you're trimming, the best thing to do is to hold your left hand over here, so if it starts to fly off, you can catch it. So I trim the base to take weight off, number one, but mostly to refine the shape. Oh. And some people say, well, it's still wobbling a little bit. But the truth is, it's clay, it's handmade, it's going to wobble a little bit. But when you stop the wheel and look at it, you don't see a wobble. So on this picture, you know, in thinking about the finish of it, I would often just do brushwork or decoration on this part or carve it. So I will be carving this part. The other advantage in trimming right side up is that you can look inside. And so when you're throwing, you want to think about the inside shape, because when you trim, you're going to be trimming to the inside shape. Because often people make something and they go, well, that looks pretty good. But if you look at the inside shape, it's totally different. So. Using a different tool to cut under here. When you cut under, you create a shadow underneath, which gives a piece some lift. So, and depending on the piece, I'll put a little line down here to emphasize the base. And a line here because this is where I'm gonna carve. So just twist this off, pick it up. It's a little bit rough right here, so you just take that off. You never want to leave a sharp edge, because it only gets sharper. So, okay, so then the next thing is to carve the middle of that. Okay, so this picture is ready for carving. So it's not really leather hard. It's almost getting there. I probably started carving to take part of the weight off and for decoration. For now, for me, it's decorative, and I use a bunch of different tools to do it and make a pattern around the pot. So I'm always looking back and looking ahead to see where it's going. So I carve with everything from these Michael Sherrill tools to trimming tools. I even have, this comes from like probably a Chinese market, that I think they use them to cut radishes into different shapes. So most of the potters I know go in cooking stores looking for new tools. So we all do that, and we've always done it. So I'm just gonna start off here. That's so I've emphasized the neck. So when I'm carving, I'm cutting a pattern. I'm thinking about what's behind and what's ahead. I'm just starting to take a little bit off and starting to create a pattern. So depending on which tools you're using, they all do different things. It also comes out different in terms of the consistency of the piece of clay that you are carving. So I've never thought of it this way, but carving is like the dressing on the pot. Same way some people do different other kinds of decoration. So I want the carving and the decoration to flow around the piece. So also the whole thing connects. So on this, like I'm repeating the stripes that are up above to down below. So when you're carving also, sometimes you're thinking about what glaze you're going to use on it or how you're going to fire it, because glazes will pull away from the edges of the carving and create more of a pattern. So you think too about the fact the handle's going to go here, so what's underneath here will be under the, what's on this part will be under the handle. So, no. So the way I carve is just developed over the years, because I've got a pot in my, what I call my glory hole, that I probably carved as an undergrad. It's very different. I probably, like most, started carving to get the weight off. So, but I was also thinking about decoration at the same time. Okay, so now this is ready for a handle. And at this point, if you don't like the way part of it looks, fix it or throw it out. I mean, it's lucky we're using clay. It doesn't cost a lot of money. Okay, so to have a handle, you need to have the clay well wedged, and I pull the handles separately and then attach them to the picture and pull them the rest of the way. So I'm going to pull this thicker than what you want to end up. So I'm pulling down, going from side to side to keep it even. Because when you pull, if you only pull one direction, it would be thinner on one side, which wouldn't be great. A lot of people say clay is messy, but it washes off. So, okay, so we'll cut this off kind of at the thickness that I want to have it attached. So, this is the thickness here, but I'm also gonna thicken it a little more by dropping it down. So, and then, sounds stupid, but make sure you do it opposite the lip. So it dries more from the lip because it's thinner. Just want to make sure you get this stays plenty moist, because if not, falls off. So usually just put a bunch of water on it. So I'm now ready to attach this to the picture. So hold your hand on the inside as you wiggle in. This hand doesn't need to be this wet. So I'm squeezing in here. Kind of have to slowly do this. So you want these two to get closer to the same consistency, which takes a few minutes. Can't be impatient at this point. So I'm slowly sliding clay into the pitcher, making sure not to squeeze it in here. So you're pushing in, making sure you're attaching it in the bottom and the top. So get rid of if you've made a mess here, get rid of it now. You can get by with a little bit of mess on stoneware, but if you make it in porcelain, every single thing shows. Okay, so now what I do is pick the picture up and pull it down, you want to hold the picture horizontally. You don't want it at an angle. So you're trying to pull straight down from the lip. Going from side to side. So everybody gets to their own kind of handle. For me, it's going down the middle. And then going down each side. So you're paying attention to the width and the thickness so that it goes with the picture. So at this point, the picture has already dried some. So relative to the handle, it's going to shrink less than the handle is going to shrink. So what you are trying to do is, when you attach this handle, you want it to look a little bit larger than it ought to be. So now what I'm going to do is dropping the bottom down, lifting up, and making the curve. And I turn this around to see if it's straight. Not quite. Your hand always goes in one direction or the other. So I'm going to cut this off the bottom. And attach it. So I'm going to attach this. Pull this bottom out a little bit. To make a more secure look down here. So then, set it down and go back under here and lift it up a little. Now, you can either, see that looks a little bigger than it's supposed to be, which is what I want. So, if it's not in the shape that you want it, you can support it by sticking a piece of newspaper here. Get it the shape you want it. And attach this with a little piece of clay until it dries. So that should work out well.